For as long as I can remember, I've always been fascinated by pianos that can play themselves. I think if I lived in a massive open-plan house, I could really picture a Yamaha Disclavia sitting in it, perhaps a white one, at the bottom of a grand staircase playing through some relaxing melodies. However, back in the real world, I live in a tiny rubbish little house that doesn't even have room for a piano stool, never mind a piano to go with it. And then there's the not inconsiderable issue of price. A Grand Disclavia starts at £20,000 and goes up from there. And yet, somehow, here we are. You're looking at my new self-playing piano, happily playing away in my stupid old house. Yes, my ambition has finally become a reality, and all I had to do to make this happen was just to downsize my expectations a touch. You are looking at a SEGA Grand Pianist. This is a beautiful replica of a grand piano. It's got an incredible level of attention to detail. It is, though, made out of plastic rather than ebony wood. However, all 88 keys can be played, and it is electronic rather than mechanical, but it is polyphonic. And while those keys are a touch too small even for the slimmest of fingers, with a bit of patience you can just about tap out a tune of sorts. There's variable sustain too, although the pedals are only there for decoration, as are the pretend casters on the legs. It's all powered by a multi-voltage adapter, the wire for which can be routed inside one of the legs to keep things neat. On the bottom you've got a speaker, a power switch and two 3.5mm mini jack sockets, one for audio in and one for out. The Grand Pianist was brought to the market in 2007 by Sega Toys, and apparently it sold quite well in Japan, despite its price of 47,000 yen, which was equivalent to around $400 at the time. Sega registered the name of the product in the US but never launched it outside Japan. It really is a pretty expensive gadget and very niche, far too delicate to be considered as a child's toy, and yet perhaps too much of a toy for many adults, present company excluded. Then again, if it was just a toy piano that you could barely play, then I wouldn't be interested in it either. It's the fact that it plays a variety of pre-installed tunes and manipulates its keys to correspond with the music. Those are the things that appeal to me. You gain access to the controls by sliding back a panel on the top, and with these you can choose from the two modes. There's the piano that you can play yourself, and then the other mode is the one that plays back from a selection of 100 tracks. These are split over 6 genres. If it's left to its own devices, it'll continue playing through all the tracks in the selected genre, but of course you can pick an individual track and skip forward and back as required. Keys remain live on playback mode as well, so if you wished you could try and accompany the track by adding your own unique contribution. The 6 different types of music included with the device, as defined in the manual, are classical, jazz, mood, theme, Japanese and Western music. However, in addition to these, Sega also sold a range of music cartridges, and as you can see, these are just SD cards. So using the appropriate piece of janky old PC software called PC Music Box, you can convert normal MIDI files to the FEM format files that can be read by the piano, and as long as these files are then put on a 2GB SD card, not larger, not smaller, but exactly 2GB, then the piano will recognise them and you can get it to perform your own choice of music. Now, a multi-instrument MIDI track like this isn't really ideal, as the piano is trying to replicate too many channels. It really does get a little bit messy in parts. fact, it's the same story with many of the pop hits that have been converted to MIDI files. You get the best results, of course, if you stick to tracks that were originally intended to be played on a piano. Now, just a word about that input. The idea is that you can connect up a device to play through the speaker on the piano. If you wish, the piano can also move the keys randomly along with the music, but it is randomly. There's absolutely no relationship with the audio. And if you want, those keys can be deactivated and then you're really just using it as a speaker. Incidentally, while I was testing this feature out, the piano went into some kind of test mode that cycled through all the keys. Now, I'm just showing this here to demonstrate that every single key does have an actuator, so they can all be manipulated as required. It's just often music tends to stick to the middle of the keyboard. That's why you don't see the edge ones moving so much. And talking of the keys, you'll have noticed they're quite loud in operation. With the volume on the piano turned all the way down, you can sometimes recognise tracks purely from the rhythm the keys make. And this, of course, is where the external speaker output should come in. If you were to hook this up to a louder speaker, you shouldn't even be able to hear those keys moving. Well, that's the theory. Unfortunately, though, my machine has a bit of a technical issue with the output. Yeah, I know, I probably need to replace the caps in it, but yes, finally, I've achieved my dream of owning a piano that can sit in the corner of a room and play through a repertoire of tracks. It might be to a slightly different scale than I'd hoped for, but I'm not complaining. And I've got to thank a nice chap called Will Smiley who suggested the idea for this video. He's got a YouTube channel as well, so I'm going to link to that in the video description. Also, thanks again to Anders Enger Jensen for putting together the MIDI version of Cuba Bion that you heard earlier on. And if you've got Grand Pianist envy, you might want to check out the affiliated eBay links in the video description. But anyway, that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.